Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions. She twirled her fork too slowly. That's how I knew. Not the lipstick. Not the new perfume. Not even the way she laughed too brightly at her own texts. It was the way she twirled her fork. Slow, focused, like she was somewhere else entirely. Like the pasta in front of her was just a prop, and she was starring in someone else's story. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. You don't ask when the air between you goes quiet for too long. You just listen. And lately, the only thing I'd been listening to were the little sounds. The ones she didn't mean to make. The hum when she texted late at night. The breath she held when her phone lit up. The giggle that never came from my jokes anymore. Dinner was her idea. That should have been the first red flag. She hadn't planned anything for us in months. So when she booked the table, smiled wide and said, "Let's do something nice. Just us." I said yes like an idiot. And there we were. Candlelight. Wine. Fettuccine. And a woman across from me texting Sienna from work, who somehow made her smirk like she'd just gotten away with something. The waiter poured me a second glass of wine. I hadn't finished the first. Then she looked at me. Really looked. And asked, "What's wrong? You've been so quiet." Could have said it then. I could have asked who really made her laugh like that. I could have reached across the table, grabbed her phone, and held up the messages like a confession. But I didn't. I waited. She took another bite. Her phone buzzed again. This time she didn't check it. Just smiled. Like she already knew what it said. And that's when I said it. One sentence. 7 words. And it made her cough so violently. The table next to us turned to stare. You want to know what I said? She was still coughing when the waiter rushed over, asking if she needed water. She waved him off, her eyes watering, face flushed. Not from spice, but from something far sharper. I sat there watching, not moving, not helping. I just looked at her and let the silence stretch between us like barbed wire. What did I say? I told her. Brad just texted back. He says hi. That's all. Nothing dramatic. No screaming. Just that quiet sentence while she had a mouthful of pasta. And the moment the words landed, she went pale. Her fork clattered against the plate. Her phone trembled in her hand. And for the first time in a long while, she couldn't hide behind a smile. She stared at me like I had just torn through her perfectly built wall of lies. Like I wasn't supposed to know. Like I was supposed to be the same Irving she'd been ignoring for months. The same quiet fool. But I wasn't. See, after last night, I stopped pretending. I didn't sleep. I didn't cry either. I just watched. And that's when I figured it out. Her work hours didn't match her schedule. Her phone never left her hand. She was always smiling at messages I wasn't part of. And then this morning, when she was in the shower, her phone buzzed with a message preview I wasn't meant to see. Wear red. You know I love it. She wore red. So before dinner, I did something I'd never done before. I texted the number. I pretended to be her. I said, "Dinner at Belotti's. Can't stop thinking about last night." And Brad, whoever he really was, texted back in less than a minute, "You're making me crazy. Don't let him see you smile too much." That's when everything inside me stopped. At the restaurant, when I saw her checking her phone and hiding her grin, I knew he had just replied again. I didn't need to guess. I knew. And I waited. I waited until she was mid-bite, until she was smug and sure and floating in whatever fantasy world she had built with her lover. And then I shattered it with those 7 words. Her reaction wasn't rage. It wasn't guilt. It was something far worse. Fear. She tried to laugh weakly. "What are you talking about?" I leaned forward, voice calm, like I wasn't breaking apart inside. "You didn't change his name back, Callie. You still have him saved as Carla. You think I don't know the difference between you texting your coworker and you grinning like a teenager in love?" She blinked fast, her mouth opening, then closing again, like her brain was rebooting in panic mode. "I saw the messages," I added. "All of them." That's when she dropped her phone. Not set it down. Dropped it. It hit the floor between us with a sharp crack, the screen lighting up one more time as if mocking her. And I didn't even have to look to know what it said. She reached for it with shaking fingers, but I beat her to it. I picked it up slowly, turned it so she could see the glowing message bubble. Can't wait to taste you again. No emoji. No context. Just that. She looked around like someone drowning in plain sight, hoping no one else noticed. But the tables around us were already whispering. One woman had even put her fork down to watch. I stood up, dropped her phone gently into her untouched wine glass, and said, "Enjoy your date night." Then I walked out. I didn't look back. I didn't pay the bill. I didn't cry. At least not until I got to the car. I sat in the parking lot for almost an hour after leaving the restaurant. The rain had started light at first, then steady. I didn't turn the wipers on. Just watched the droplets gather and race each other down the windshield, while my hands gripped the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from drifting off the edge of reality. I must have looked like a man who had just lost everything. And in some ways I had. You always imagine that if something like this happens, you'll scream. You'll flip a table. You'll storm out with thunder in your steps. But when the betrayal finally hits, it doesn't explode. It sinks. Quiet. Heavy. Like you're drowning in a memory you can't crawl out of. She didn't run after me. I waited. I waited until the last of the restaurant guests filed out. Some glanced at me with pity. One guy even gave me that nod. The one men give each other when words are useless. But Callie? She stayed inside, probably texting him, maybe calling him, maybe arranging to meet up once she finished pretending our marriage still existed. At some point, my phone buzzed. It was her. I didn't want to look at it. I knew whatever was on that screen would hurt more than anything she could say in person. But like the idiot I am, I opened the message anyway. "Can we talk when you get home? Please don't do anything dramatic." Dramatic. That word stabbed deeper than the affair itself. She didn't write, "I'm sorry." She didn't say, "I messed up." She said, "Don't do anything dramatic." Like I was the problem. Like I was the unstable one. Like the man who just watched his wife choke on her own lies needed to be reminded to behave. I threw the phone onto the passenger seat and started the engine. I didn't drive home. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove. Past the gas station where we used to grab Slurpees. Past the park where we had that stupid picnic where she got ants in her sandals and made me carry her. Past everything that used to feel like ours. I ended up outside a closed coffee shop, sitting under the flickering light of a dying sign. And for the first time in years, I cried. Not the quiet kind either, the ugly, choking, heaving kind. The kind of crying that shakes something loose inside you. Something you didn't realize was being held hostage. All I could think about was how long she had been doing this. Was it months? A year? Did it start when she stopped laughing at my jokes? When she said she was too tired to go on our anniversary trip? When she forgot my birthday? The signs were all there. I just didn't want to see them. No, that's a lie. I saw them. I just hoped I was wrong. I wiped my face with my sleeve, took a few shaky breaths, and finally did the thing I should have done years ago. I opened our shared phone plan and looked at the call logs. Hundreds of texts, hours of late-night calls, all to the same number. Not Carla, not Sienna, just Brad. Who was Brad? I didn't know, yet, but I would. And by the time I found out, I'd wish I never had. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even go home. I sat in my car, parked 2 blocks from our house, engine off, phone in my hand, trying to decide what kind of man I wanted to be when the sun came up. Part of me wanted to storm through the door and demand answers. Another part, the louder part, wanted to quietly vanish. Just walk away from everything without giving her the satisfaction of watching me crumble. Around 5:30 a.m., the sky turned that ugly blue-gray that comes before sunrise, and I saw the porch light flicker on. She was up. Probably hadn't slept either. Good, I thought. At least she was uncomfortable. I waited another 30 minutes before heading inside. The front door creaked open like it always did. Same squeak I used to swear I'd fix. And there she was, in the kitchen, sitting at the table, still in the red dress from the night before. Her hair was tied up, and her face was blank. Not sad. Not guilty. Just blank. "You stayed out all night," she said flatly, not even turning her head. I ignored her tone and walked past her. I dropped my keys into the dish, kicked off my shoes, and went straight to the bedroom. She followed me a few seconds later. Irving, can you just stop acting like a child and talk to me? That word again. Child. It always rolled so easily off her tongue whenever I was hurt or needed something she didn't feel like giving. I sat on the edge of the bed, took out my phone, and opened the call log again. Who is he? I asked without looking up. She sighed, like this was some inconvenience. I don't know what you think you saw. Don't. I cut her off. Don't lie to me again. I have the number. I have the texts. I have the timestamps. Just tell me who he is. She hesitated, then leaned against the doorframe with her arms crossed. His name is Brad. He works at the firm. We met a few months ago. It wasn't supposed to be anything. I didn't mean for it to get this far. You didn't mean to fall into someone else's bed? I finally looked at her. Do you even remember the last time you looked at me the way you smile at his texts? Silence. That's when I realized she wasn't sorry. Not really. She was sorry she got caught. Sorry that her careful balance of husband and lover had finally tipped. And she didn't know which one to cling to. Irving, she said, softer now. I didn't cheat to hurt you. I laughed. It was sharp and hollow. Well, that's a relief. Then she stepped closer, and what she said next made my skin go cold. I cheated because I didn't think you'd even notice. That one sentence cracked something in me. It wasn't the betrayal. It wasn't the lies. It was the utter belief in her voice that I had become so forgettable, so small in her world, that my pain wouldn't even register. I stood up slowly, grabbed a duffel bag from the closet, and began throwing in clothes. She didn't try to stop me. She just watched. Where are you going? She asked after a minute. I zipped the bag and looked her dead in the eyes. To be seen. And I walked out. No plan. No destination. But for the first time in years, I wasn't invisible. The motel I checked into smelled like bleach and stale coffee. The curtains barely covered the windows, and the bed creaked if you so much as breathed too heavily near it. But it was quiet. And more importantly, it was mine. No scent of her expensive candles. No decorative pillows she never let me use. No silent judgment hanging in the air. Just walls. 4 of them. And for the first time in a long while, I could hear my own thoughts. I stared at the ceiling until noon, replaying every moment of our last few months together. I remembered how she used to come home late and say she stayed behind to help with presentations. I remembered the new lingerie I never saw her wear again. The time she said she needed space, but insisted we still share a bed. All of it lined up now like dominoes she had carefully stacked behind my back. Around 3 p.m., I got a text from her. Short, cold. Are you really going to destroy our marriage over a few texts? I laughed out loud. One of those exhausted, disbelieving laughs that come from somewhere between heartbreak and fury. A few texts? Is that how little our vows meant to her? Is that what betrayal had become? A minor inconvenience? Something to be brushed off like crumbs on the table? She still didn't get it. Or worse, she did and just didn't care. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and did what I never thought I'd do. I looked up Brad. Took less than 5 minutes. He wasn't exactly discreet. Same firm she worked at. His LinkedIn was polished. White teeth, sharp suit, one of those guys who probably called himself a closer and posted gym selfies with motivational quotes about hustle. And then, under recent posts, I saw it. A photo of him at a company retreat. Smiling. Arm draped around someone cropped out of the frame. But I recognized the dress. It was navy blue. I bought it for Kelly 3 years ago on our anniversary. So she didn't just cheat. She posed for pictures with him. She wore my gift in front of his camera, at a company event, surrounded by people who probably shook my hand at the last office party. And none of them said a word. That broke me in a new way. Quietly. Not the loud kind of pain you scream into a pillow. The deep, dull kind that sits in your chest like a stone and refuses to move. I shut the laptop and stared at the wall until the light changed. Then I called someone I hadn't spoken to in over a year, my brother, Dean. We used to be close. Then life happened. I got busy being a husband. He got busy being single and spontaneous and unapologetically free. I always envied that. Not that I'd ever admit it out loud. He picked up on the second ring. Irving? Wow. You alive? I need somewhere to crash, I said. He didn't ask questions. Just said, come over. When I showed up at his place, bigger, messier, louder, I felt like I'd landed on another planet. There were pizza boxes stacked on the counter, a guitar in the bathtub, and a dog I didn't know he owned barking at my duffel bag. Dean hugged me like he knew I was 2 seconds from unraveling. Then he stepped back and looked me over. Damn, he said. You look like you've been run over emotionally, spiritually, and maybe even financially. I managed a weak smile. All three. He didn't press for details. He just handed me a beer, kicked aside some laundry, and said, stay as long as you want. I didn't say it, but I meant to. Thank you for seeing me. Because after years of fading into the background of my own marriage, someone finally did. The first night at Dean's felt like sleeping inside a tornado. His dog, Max, barked at every sound from outside. His neighbor blasted country music at 1 a.m., and Dean himself snored like a chainsaw going through drywall. But I slept. Not peacefully, not deeply. But it was the first time in years I hadn't laid in bed beside a woman pretending I didn't exist. When I woke up, there were 2 texts from Callie. The first read, can we just be adults about this? The second came 5 minutes later. I never meant for you to find out that way. That line got to me, not what she did, how I found out. As if the betrayal itself was fine so long as it stayed hidden. She was more upset about the timing than the act. That was Callie in a nutshell, always more invested in how things looked than how they felt. I didn't answer. I wasn't ready. And honestly, I was afraid I'd say something I couldn't take back. Something that would turn me into someone like her. Dean, of course, had questions. We sat on his beat-up leather couch, eating leftover Chinese food straight from the cartons. When he finally said, so, you gonna tell me why you look like a ghost, or should I just keep guessing? I told him everything. From the texts to the pasta to the message I'd read while she was still chewing. I told him about the silence, about how invisible I'd become in my own house. I didn't cry, but my voice cracked more than once. And Dean, for all his sarcasm and cluttered living, didn't interrupt once. When I was done, he leaned back, whistled low, and said, you always were too loyal, man. You treated that woman like a queen, and she couldn't even treat you like a person. That hit harder than I expected. She said she didn't think I'd notice, I whispered. Dean looked at me with something close to pity. She thought you were safe. That's the word. Safe enough to neglect. Safe enough to lie to. Safe enough to cheat on. Because you'd never blow up the house, just patch the roof and stay quiet. He wasn't wrong. I'd spent years biting my tongue, swallowing my feelings, trying to be understanding. But now, sitting in his messy apartment with cold lo mein in my lap, I started to realize. Maybe the silence had been my biggest mistake. Later that day, I went for a walk, just around the block. I needed air, space, the illusion of movement. And that's when it happened. Car pulled up beside me. My stomach dropped. It was her, Callie, wearing sunglasses and a gray hoodie like she was trying to be invisible. I froze. She rolled down the window slowly. Get in the car, she said. Please. I didn't move. Irving, just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I looked at her, really looked, for the first time since that night. She didn't look sorry. She looked exhausted, like guilt hadn't kept her up, but the inconvenience of being caught had. Against my better judgment, I opened the door and got in. She drove a block, then pulled over in a grocery store parking lot. The engine idled. Neither of us spoke for a minute. Then she turned to me. I ended it with him. I stayed quiet. She continued. It wasn't love. It was. I don't know. Stupid. I was stupid. That's not news to me, I said flatly. She winced. I didn't expect you to react like this. You always let things slide. There it was again. That damn word. Always. Like it was a given. Like I was predictable. Like I was spineless. I let things slide because I loved you, I said quietly. Because I thought we were worth fighting for. Callie stared out the windshield. Are we? I didn't answer. Couldn't. 'Cause deep down I wasn't sure anymore. All I knew was, for the first time in over a decade, I had the power to choose what came next. And she knew it too. The silence in that car was different from the silence in our marriage. This one wasn't tired, it was tense. Loaded. Like both of us were waiting for the other to blink first. She gripped the steering wheel like it was the only thing grounding her. And I just stared ahead at the parked cars, wondering how two people could sit this close and feel miles apart. Irving, she said finally, her voice lower than I remembered. I never stopped loving you. I didn't look at her. You just started loving someone else at the same time. She flinched. I could see it from the corner of my eye. I could see her trying to dig through her mind for the version of me that would still take her back. The version who would brush this under the rug, cry quietly, and hold on to her because losing her was worse than the betrayal. But that man was gone. Or at least buried deep enough that she couldn't reach him anymore. I know I hurt you, she said, still gripping the wheel, still avoiding my gaze. And I know I probably don't deserve anything right now, but I need you to hear me. She turned toward me finally. It wasn't about him. It wasn't some grand romance. It was stupid and shallow, and I hated myself for it every single time. But you, she paused. You weren't there either, Irving. You were like a ghost in the house, like you'd already left just without the bags. My chest tightened, not because she was wrong, but because she was partially right. I had been distant. I'd been quiet, fading, swallowed by the weight of a love that no longer felt mutual. But I wasn't sure if that made me responsible or just collateral damage. I tried. I whispered. I tried to talk. I tried to reach you. You pulled away, and I thought giving you space would help. I thought patience would fix us. I didn't know it was permission. Her lips trembled. I could see the tears starting to rise. But I didn't trust them. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Because I remembered how she'd smiled while texting him. How she laughed behind her wine glass while I sat across from her like a stranger. And now she wanted to rewind. As if regret could glue together what she shattered. I ended it with Brad, she repeated. I told him I made a mistake. That I'm choosing you. I almost laughed. Choosing me. Like I was a backup plan. Like I was the safe bet after the thrill burned out. That wasn't love. That was desperation wrapped in apologies. I didn't come here for your confession, I said. I came because I needed to see your face when you realized I might not come back. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I don't know what's going to happen next, I said. I don't have a master plan. But I do know one thing. I'm done being the man you forget to look at. Then I opened the door and stepped out. She called after me. My name, once, soft and shaky. I didn't turn around. Back at Dean's, the apartment felt louder than before. Max barked the second I walked in. Dean was on the couch with a bag of chips and an Xbox controller in his hand. He looked up at me, paused his game and said, "So?" I dropped my bag and sat down beside him. She says she ended it. And I told her I don't know if that matters anymore. Dean nodded slowly, then handed me the chips. Proud of you, man. I didn't respond. But for the first time in a long time, I felt something small but unfamiliar growing inside me. Not joy, not peace, but maybe clarity. Because now it was my turn to decide. And whatever came next, it wouldn't be about what she wanted. It would be about what I needed. A week passed. Then another. No messages from Callie. No late-night apologies. No unexpected visits. Just silence. And for once, it didn't feel empty, it felt earned. Like space finally meant something. Like I was breathing air that hadn't been filtered through someone else's lies. Dean offered to let me stay as long as I wanted. And though the noise, chaos, and random guitars in the bathroom never made sense, I found comfort in the mess. It was honest. Nothing was hidden here. Max barked too loud. Dean ate like a teenager. And the apartment was always half a disaster. But everything was real. No performance. No pretending. One afternoon, I sat by the window with a cup of bad coffee and opened a notebook I hadn't touched in years. I used to write short stories, rambling thoughts, half-finished ideas I was always too scared to share. Callie never really encouraged it. Said it was cute, like a hobby for someone who hadn't quite grown up. But now, staring at the blank page, I didn't hear her voice in my head anymore. I started writing again. First just a paragraph, then a full page, then 3. It wasn't good. It wasn't polished. But it was mine. And the more I wrote, the more I felt like I was putting myself back together. One sentence at a time. Eventually, I met with a divorce lawyer. It wasn't a dramatic decision. No slam doors or shouting matches. Just clarity. I told Callie over the phone. She didn't cry. She didn't fight. She just said, okay. That was the moment I knew I'd made the right choice. Because love, real love, doesn't break that quietly. Months passed, and slowly, the pain stopped feeling like a wound and started feeling like a scar. A reminder, not a sentence. I moved into a small apartment near a local bookstore. Took a new job teaching writing workshops on the weekends. Max visits often, sometimes with Dean, sometimes on his own. He's decided I'm his secondary human now. As for Callie, I don't know where she is, or what she's doing. And for the first time in years, I don't care. I'm not the same man who sat at that restaurant, watching his wife text another man over fettuccine. I'm not invisible anymore. I'm not safe. I'm me. And that, after everything, is enough. Thanks for watching my story here on Reddit Confessions. I'd love to hear from you. What moment in this story hit you the hardest? Have you ever had to quietly walk away from someone who didn't see your worth? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories, right here on Reddit Confessions.